What things matter? Is it dependent on the application, or are there things in general that we need to consider? Well, the answer is both, actually. You might have guessed that. So when I put on an HMD, one of the first things I notice is the resolution. Do I have a screen door in front of me that I'm looking through, or do I actually see things as I would in the real world? And if I'm seeing them as they would, if I'm seeing them as I would in the real world, are they really that clear? Do I feel like I'm there, or do I feel like I'm looking at a picture, or a VHS tape being played back on a CRT or something? So resolution is very, very important, but so is frame rate. Now we're talking about the hardware to support the immersive experience, and frame rate is dictated not only by the HMD. I mean, you look up an HMD and see the specifications, and it's going to tell you how many frames per second that HMD can provide to your eyeballs. But that doesn't mean that it's going to get that same number of frames per second from the source that drives it. And that's generally a PC. It could be a PC with a GPU in it, and that GPU is the main factor in driving the frame rate. Or you could be using virtual GPUs, in which case you've got to also consider network latency and bandwidth from the server that's got the virtual GPU in it that's sending you the frames. Now, there are quite a few other things the hardware can have an effect on. Situational awareness can depend on the HMD itself, not just the computer driving it, but the very HMD, because the screens you might be looking at something that, older HMDs and some current ones that, mostly consumer ones, it's like you're looking at a screen out in front of you. And for training with situational awareness, you do better with a wide field of view and the perception that you're looking into reality, not you're looking through darkness out at a remote screen. That's a hardware consideration that relies mostly on the HMD, but of course requires the PC to have the power to drive it. Another thing that's very much hardware related is latency. If frames aren't getting to the HMD quickly enough for the HMD to display them when they're demanded, you're going to have gaps in the frames. You'll have screen tearing. You'll have all kinds of things that are distracting and lower the fidelity of the experience. And it can even take you out of the immersive experience. The suspension of disbelief goes away. All of a sudden, your brain's trying to figure out what's going on, and it just doesn't look right. So it's another area where hardware is really, really important. A couple more areas that are hardware related, but also topology related, are collaboration and scaling. So collaboration, let's talk about in a training situation, any kind of an immersive experience, even if it's not training, it could strictly be for collaboration. But what that means is that you've got someone besides just you in your experience. You look into your HMD, you can see other people, they can see you, these kinds of things. So that's collaboration, and that requires the right kind of software, the right kind of network. And again, you have to have the hardware to be able to provide the frames that are accurate in the right real-time space, so that you don't suspend disbelief and you actually have an immersive experience. Now, if you're collaborating with 4 people, how is that different from collaborating with 16 people or training with 16 people? Or let's say you are doing something and you have the whole west side of the country sales force all collaborating, and you've got 300 people on that team. Let's say you're training, for a large battle, and you've got, some percentage of the Army's manpower all coming into a single experience. Well, you're going to have to scale your hardware to support that. The network has to support it right down to the point of need, and the servers have to support it. You've got to be able to deliver the frames to each one of those HMDs, as well as understand the correlation between where each individual user is in the virtual environment and where everyone else is. So these are some things that often are more complicated to work out than they might even seem once you understand what the pieces involved are.